All right, so in light of what happened tonight to Calgary at home, they lost 5-0 at home to the Arizona Coyotes. Um, yeah, that's not good for Calgary. They're now only 3 points up on Vancouver, and Vancouver's got a game in hand. So that's just to give you an idea of just how precarious things are for the Calgary Flames. So I've been looking at the standings. I've been looking at where things are at. Things really haven't changed because of tonight's games, although Columbus and the Rangers are now tied. The Rangers have more regulation or overtime wins. Columbus shows as being ahead of them on the TSN ratings because TSN rates teams being higher if they have games in hand. So because Columbus has one game in hand on the Rangers, they're rated higher. But goal differential, the Rangers are winning in that. They've got more regulation overtime wins. Rangers look really, really good right now. So if it's the Rangers and Pittsburgh in the first round, if that's what ends up happening, wow. Um, Toronto still shows as being the second wild card team, but I have a funny feeling the Islanders are going to get in and grab that. The Islanders just have so much momentum, and they're only 1 point back, and I really think the Islanders are going to get in there. And according to the odds makers who do the 10,000 potential outcomes of the regular season, um, Florida has a 42% chance of making the playoffs. So Florida technically has 42% chance, although they gave them a higher percent chance the last time I looked than the Islanders, and the Islanders are ahead of Florida now, so I think that would change somewhat. And Florida has to pass the Islanders, Philly, and Toronto. Now they can pass Philly because they're 3 points back of Philly with 2 games in hand, but it's that consistency. It's that that consistency teams just can't seem to find right now. In terms of looking at who in the East have won more than say 5 games in their last 10, Boston 6-4, Washington's 8-2, Pittsburgh 6-2, Rangers are 8-2, the Islanders are 6-2, and that's it. Anybody else is 5 wins in the last 10 games or lower. So it's really kind of a mishmash. And Carolina, who as recently as a few weeks ago, I was saying maybe these guys have a shot at making the playoffs. They've gone 3-7 in their last 10, and they've fallen down to uh, next to last place. They're 1 point ahead of Detroit, and they have 3 games in hand of Detroit. Yeah, Detroit is last in the East. So, when people ask, should Detroit sell? The answer is absolutely. They've only got 16 regulation or overtime wins in 56 games. So 16-40, it's time to forget about the dream and just sell wherever they can. Um, Now in the West, um, in terms of potential playoffs, of course, Anaheim and Edmonton, I've discussed how I think whoever would get home ice in that matchup, should that be the matchup that takes place, the home team probably wins the series. So right now, Anaheim would be in the driver's seat, but not by much. They should be pulling away from Edmonton. They should be staying closer to San Jose, and they're not. So we'll see what happens there. Minnesota with 80 points, they're way ahead of everybody else. But the interesting thing too is Chicago and St. Louis would meet in the first round if things stayed the way they are right now. And St. Louis and Chicago met last year, and St. Louis overcame some demons and knocked Chicago out. Any idea of maybe Chicago wins this year? The thing is, Chicago's 12 points ahead of St. Louis right now. And while St. Louis has been a good story under a new coach with Mike Yeo, I really can't see them beating Chicago again in the playoffs. They beat them last year. It was an inspirational upset, but this is a different year, and St. Louis has lost a lot over the last year, and Chicago is Chicago. Um, they at least have 1 or 2 more years where I think they can win a Stanley Cup with their current core. After that, it gets more difficult because, as I've said, your young, speedy players become your veteran, a little bit slower players, and other teams in the West are going to get better. Minnesota, I think, is just gonna keep getting better next year and going forward. I think if they play the expansion right, I think Minnesota has a chance to become dominant in the West. Um, Anaheim is probably going to do a downturn at the end of this year. Edmonton, again, it comes to the offseason moves. And I look at Calgary, who currently look like they're trying to miss the playoffs. You lose 5-0 at home against Arizona. You're trying to miss the playoffs. You're trying to get Gulletson fired, and really they're digging themselves into a hole that they don't need to worry. They shouldn't need to worry about. If they won at home tonight against Arizona, they would have passed LA. Now LA would and do have 2 games in hand on Calgary, but at least they would show as being in the playoffs when they wake up tomorrow and read the newspapers, if people still read newspapers. But Zona gets another win, and Arizona's playing spoiler, and this is what the good teams do. When a good team is eliminated from the playoffs, they play spoiler. They show, what, we're better than this. And Arizona is potentially showing that next year could be a much better season for the Coyotes, because once they've been basically mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they've been playing a lot better. There's pride on the line. And hopefully that'll extend into next year, because that team, that organization needs to be stronger. But again, with that win, Arizona is 9 points back of Winnipeg to move one notch up the Western ladder. So as much as Arizona's win was impressive, it's all a matter of degrees, and it's all a matter of perspective. So it's nice to see a shutout in Arizona. It's nice to see, in Calgary by Arizona, but it's one of those things. It does open the door somewhat for Vancouver, but again, Vancouver would have to win a bunch of games here and hope that the Kings go into a slump. And then, I've said this before, let's say Vancouver goes on a run and gets a wild card spot. Does anybody pick them against Minnesota or San Jose? Even Canuck fans, do you pick them against Minnesota or San Jose? I don't think you do. So, it's interesting how things are shaking out. The Rangers Columbus game was a really good game. If you missed it, you missed a really good game. The Rangers, even when Columbus kept tying it, I felt the Rangers were going to win the game. They were the better team tonight, and I thought Girardi played really well. Brady Shea impresses me anytime I see him, and Antti Raanta is probably the best backup in the league right now. I'm going to get comments below about Scott Darling and whatnot. But I think Antti Raanta is the best backup. And I think that if and when Lundqvist is pulled back to a backup, or at least a 40-40 split, I think Raanta is capable of doing it. So let me know in the comments below what you think about tonight's action. The loss by Calgary is huge, because you have to win games against the lower teams. You have to. When you're on the outside looking in, and there's so few points, and you don't even get a point. You don't even get the loser point. That's just killer. And I don't know how much longer with 3 coaches have been fired, and all 3 teams got better after their coaches got fired. I'm not counting Florida in there. Florida was a cluster. That was Gerard Gallant getting fired was something weird. The Boston, St. Louis, and Islanders firings are the way that firings are supposed to take place. The Gallant one was just strange, and it didn't have a good effect for Florida. The only reason Florida is still in the race is because there's so many teams struggling ahead of them. Otherwise, they would have been out of it too. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. If you're a Calgary fan, was that as bad as it looked tonight? Because it looked pretty bad. And if you're a Rangers fan, you have to be happy. And if you're a Columbus fan, you have to be concerned. Not concerned about missing the playoffs. You're going to make the playoffs, but do they get swept in the first round? Like, let's say they get in, they get the top wild card spot. They play Montreal. Montreal gets hot with Carey Price. Columbus gets swept then? Because Columbus doesn't seem to have the pushback that they had earlier this season. Maybe they peaked too soon. That's the problem with those long winning streaks. If you peak too soon, it's really hard to get the momentum back. So, and then the rumors as well that John Tortorella's been told to tone it down. That he's been told to dial it back a bit. And that's usually the first sign that there's a problem. Because Tortorella doesn't like to be told how to do his job. And rightfully so. The guy's got a lot of wins on his record. Regardless of how he gets them, he's got them. And I wouldn't like to be told how to do my job mid-season either. I'd be told, hey, by the way you're coaching, yeah, can you change that? Especially when you're coaching the team to the best season they've ever had. So he's got to be on some level at least somewhat pissed off because this is John Tortorella. It is pretty easy to upset him. It's not just Bob Hartley that's able to do it. Guys in general are able to make him angry. So let me know what you guys think. And I know I'm rocking the Vancouver colors a lot in videos today. It's just this hat is so epic and deserves to be revered and loved for its ugliness and its wonder and its splendor. And I have the greatest woman ever, who right now is sewing my knitting. She's knitting my wonderful scarf that will be 12 feet long, which is awesome. And it's Fourth Doctors from Doctor Who. And before I go, she made me this, which is a Doctor Who jacket. And if that's not epic, I think she made this so that she can find me in a crowd. I think this is a if I wander off in a store. It's like a little kid, really. You want to make sure that you can find me in a store. So between this and the Doctor Who toque, I should stand out like a sore thumb. So this is more of a I've lost my never mind, there he is. Sweetie, I'm over here. Look, I got chocolate. Yay, chocolate. And I come wandering over, just staggering over. You got pop? Yay, pop. All right, I'm a big kid. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're just browsing your way through, and I'll talk to you all again tomorrow. This race, all this stuff that's going on, I think this is the most fun I've had watching NHL standings ever. So this is when the playoffs roll around. This is going to be flipping epic compared to last year's playoffs when this channel was just getting rolling. This year's going to be epic. I can't wait to argue with you guys. I really can't. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.